We continue our coverage of the shooting death of two Israeli embassy staffers last night outside the Capitol Jewish Museum in Northwest. Authorities say the suspect, a 30-year-old man from Chicago, yelled "Free, free Palestine" after being arrested. Joining me now is Joel Rubin, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon.
Thanks, Michelle. Appreciate you having me.
And again, apologies for my condolences for the circumstances that we're talking under. But I understand you're familiar with the event that was being held last night at the museum. What can you tell us about that and your initial overall reaction to what happened?
Yeah, well, look, this was an event that was positive, and it really highlighted the best of the Jewish community. It was an event that brought together young diplomats from a dozen countries to convene alongside leaders of the American Jewish Committee, leaders from the board of directors here in the region, to talk about the future, to talk about peace building, to talk about aid to Gaza. And so it was one of these kinds of events during now Jewish American Heritage Month that really brings out the best of the Jewish community. But I have to tell you, Michelle, this is really what it means to be Jewish in America in 2025, what we're experiencing today, this sort of horror show of increased anti-Semitism fused with anti-Israeli language, and those who want to destroy the future coming out from the shadows to kill people, as we saw last night.
That's a powerful statement to say what happened yesterday is exemplary of what it is to be a Jewish American. Walk me through and describe the shockwaves being felt by the Jewish community right now.
I think we could think of it as shocked but not surprised. Only about 5 weeks ago, Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania, a Jewish American, a proudly Jewish American, was at home during the Passover Seder, and his house was attacked by a firebombing by an anti-Semite. I grew up in Pittsburgh in Squirrel Hill, the neighborhood where the synagogue, the Tree of Life Synagogue, is, and 11 Jewish members were killed there. We see an anti-Semitic incident an hour now over the past year, according to data from the ADL related to the situation here in the United States in terms of language, assaults, attacks, and threats online. So it's a really metastasizing dynamic. And as an American, a fifth-generation American, it's something that I never thought I would see. I'm sure my great-grandparents, when they immigrated here, they fled anti-Semitism, and for generations, this really was under the surface. But now it's growing, and it's taking on its own momentum, and that's what's very concerning.
And I know you served as a member of the Chevy Town Council. Anti-Semitism was one of the issues the council had to deal with, and as you mentioned, it continues to be an issue. You said now it has bubbled to the surface. It used to be more underground, if you will. What do you think is giving permission to these overt acts of anti-Semitism?
It's a wonderful question in the sense of trying to really get at this. And folks who study this see a lot of drivers. But at the end of the day, it's the permission slips, from my perspective, of our leaders. When people use anti-Semitic rhetoric, when online attacks against Jews are made and there's no policing or trafficking in those platforms to prevent that hate speech, when university presidents don't condemn right away verbal assaults that are anti-Semitic in nature, that allows the dynamic and the dialogue to change. And in Montgomery County Public Schools, where my daughters go, we've seen a surge in anti-Semitic rhetoric and neo-Nazi scratches into the walls and over the past several years, and it really took leaders at the top of the school district to stamp it out, but for a long time they weren't. And that's what we need to make sure we're doing, is to have leaders speak up and speak out, because Americans are not inherently hateful, but when our leaders allow the haters to speak up, that's when they take over the dialogue.
And Joel, what would you say is your message to the Jewish community feeling under attack today?
Well, it's appropriate to feel that way because we are. Stand strong, stand proud. We should not be afraid of who we are, and we do have allies everywhere. And that's the story of America, but we need to be smart. One of the lessons that I think we'll learn about from last night is that this man, this murderer, was milling about and left to mill about. And that can't be. Right now, hard security matters. Unfortunately, when I go to synagogue, in any synagogue in this area, you have to go through security, through a metal detector. That's horrifying, but that's reality. But that doesn't mean you stay away from going to synagogue. And so it's this combination of being vigilant and proud at the same time.
All right, Joel Rubin, thank you so much for joining me today. Our thoughts are with
Thanks,
your
Michelle.
community. Take care.